Welcome to the Hear What I'm Saying podcast. I'm your host, Kinetra Stewart, where we explore the complex and often heartbreaking reasons Black women have learned not to like their hair. From a young age, many Black women are taught that natural hair is not beautiful or acceptable, leading to a lifetime of struggles with self-esteem and cultural identity. Join us as we delve into the history and societal pressures that have contributed to this phenomenon and discover the empowering movement of self-love and acceptance that is changing the conversation around Black hair. Welcome, dear listeners, to a deeply moving and inspirational episode of Hear What I'm Saying. Today, we're diving into a heartfelt conversation that touches not only the souls of hairstylists, but every Black woman who has experienced the profound journey of self-discovery and self-love through their natural hair. In a world where beauty standards have often tried to dictate what is acceptable, nothing is more disheartening than hearing another Black woman express her struggle with her own hair. But today, we're here to uplift and empower, share a story of resilience, and celebrate the beauty in our natural curls, no matter how kinky, curly, coily, and wavy. We have a remarkable guest with us, Jerrica, who has traveled this journey and emerged victorious. Her story is a testament to the strength that resides within us all. So without further ado, let's dive deep into this conversation and uncover the wisdom, experiences, and empowerment that will resonate with you and inspire you to embrace the beauty of your natural hair. Welcome, Jerrica. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for carving time out of your schedule to meet with us today and share. We really appreciate you.
Of course. You're welcome.
So what's interesting is Jerrica started coming to receive salon services by me about 2 years ago, roughly, right?
Yep.
Okay. So obviously she had already arrived into this space of loving and accepting her natural hair because we never shared a conversation at the salon that she didn't. So whenever I created the Instagram story that I was looking for someone who was in this space and has evolved into the space of accepting their natural curls, she responded and said, I will do the podcast. And I was actually very surprised that she did not like her natural hair because she has been to me a multitude of times. And I'd done her hair for her wedding and she chose a natural hairstyle for her wedding. So I was very shocked that once upon a time, she didn't like her natural hair. So, Jerrica, I really want to know, of course, we're going to dive deep into how you arrived where you are today, but can you just walk us through your natural hair journey? Like what inspired you to go natural, from the beginning?
Yeah, of course. So I originally started one because it was too hard to straighten my hair anymore.
Okay. So you were relaxed then?
Yes.
Okay. And it was still hard to straighten your hair? Like, what do you mean by that?
Very, very thick hair, And I also played sports growing up. I grew up near the coast. So just like the combination of humidity and sweat.
Okay.
I was fighting my hair all day long.
Okay. Gotcha. Even in this relaxed state, it was still a struggle for you to style and keep up with your hair.
Yeah, because the places that I hold like the most moisture or, that place that gets sweaty fast or things like the crown of my hair, the way that I cut my hair into a bob, that's the first part that shrunk up. So if it didn't fall correctly, my hair kind of just sat up in the back.
So like in that crown area, you were kind of struggling.
Yeah. And even with the relaxer, that kind of makes it straight, but it doesn't get it stick straight and it doesn't stay that way.
That's interesting. Do you know what type of relaxer your stylist was using back then, or were you doing a relaxer at home?
For the most part, it was relaxers at home. But then when we did try the going to a salon, that was kind of where then I stumbled into you. I'll talk about it a little bit more, but I think I was going to the same kind of stylist that my mom had, even though now we don't have the same hair texture. And I'm sure that definitely,
plays a role.
Why I didn't like it because it took so long. And so I think it was just a combination of all of them together. And then of course, the at-home stuff isn't the same quality as you would get in the salon. So.
Because I was going to say maybe because it was a box relaxer, the strength can be a little bit more, I don't know if it's mild or more super. I have no idea. But technique is a major issue when it comes to not chemically straighten the hair properly, you know?
Well, and I have like issues around the front of my hair where it gets really dry. I think that's like where I would burn fast. And so I was always like, my mom didn't want to damage it, so I was very wary, like, it's burning, it's hurting. I don't know if that was just because I was a baby or if it was just because I was really sensitive. I have really sensitive
you were
skin.
A baby. What do you mean by that? Like you were a baby?
Well, I meant like I was really sensitive and like I would complain about it being...
like the way how you feel, like, know, like I was more sensitive, not like an actual kid.
No,
receiving.
I think I started... My mom was very wary about putting too harsh of things in my hair at first, especially, around the edges and stuff like that. You don't want it to like break off too quickly.
Right,
But I think because, again, my hair's so thick and then getting through it in sports and all of that, I think it was just more so it's not going to get straight until we leave it on for a little longer. And so I just had to get used to it.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So at what age did you receive your last relaxer? What age were you?
I would say I went natural in college. So I would say maybe 8-10 years ago.
Okay.
Officially. And then, of course, you got to grow it out. So, like, I think I started the process, like, in college because, again, I was away from home. I was away from my stylist. That was when I moved up here. And I was like, I have no idea who's going to do my hair. The lady who did my hair for 5 years, so. Okay.
Did you try to find a hairstylist when you got out here or you just kind of felt like...
I did. And it was funny because the first thing they asked me was, is your hair relaxed? And I said, yes, but I was more so wanting to not. And then they were kind of like, oh, well, I don't know if I can do your texture. And that's when I was like, okay, you're going to start messing up my hair.
Because back then that was the relaxer era. Right. Yeah. It was because it's 2023. So you said about 8 to 10 years ago. That's 2013, 15. Yeah. That was the time when you saw people transitioning. Yeah. And most hairstylists were definitely still applying relaxers.
Well, the first thing they would say is because I wanted to do it without chopping because
you wanted to transition,
right? Okay. I was afraid of because I also had I had gotten a bob, so it was like already still growing out. I was afraid I was gonna have to shave it to get down
because
to the
was
layers.
You already feel like I don't have a lot of length, and then if you cut it, then I'm really not gonna have any length. Okay, so since you were transitioning, it was more like I'd rather my hair grow a little more and you cut as it grow because you were concerned about retaining length. You didn't want it too short.
Well, gotcha. Especially because like at that point I want to be able to put my hair up if I need to because it's so hot. And so I was like, let me make sure that I can still have enough to put it up. I know that's right. Yes. Because that would just be too much, I think, too quickly, like transitioning, like cutting it and having to like style it every day.
And also just the struggle with two different textures when it's short. When your hair is short and you're trying to transition, that is a struggle. Yeah. Most girls end up cutting their hair just cutting all the relaxed hair off because it's like it's not long enough, it's not short enough to do anything. Yeah. And then you have these really puffy, resilient roots. And then you have this straight stringy hair that's just hanging on for dear life, and it's just going to lose length because of that natural hair at the roots that's coming in, which makes it harder to pull it up,
Which was nice at that age because it was like the bump it, era.
It was like you had the little hump in the front.
And then I had a little puff in the front and then I could just kind of use some bobby pins to kind of like zhuzh it up. But beyond that, I didn't have to do too much.
That is so true. Good. I definitely have a few pictures with that pompadour. It was like a pompadour. Yes. Yeah. OMG. Yes. Okay. So when you got here, most hairstylists were not tapping into styling and taking care of natural hair. They were very well still doing relaxed hair, just treating relaxed hair. Yep. So then also, let's just be honest, like in Austin, we are still trying to find black hairstylists, not even just black hairstylists that can take hair, that specialize in
someone who's touched black hair.
Yeah, anybody. That's just the thing here, right? So then you get here and it's like, not only is that not even a resource, like I'm literally out of resources. I am my only resource, right? Yes. Okay, so you decided from then on, like what happened?
Well, I was fine. I would travel actually 4 hours to go back and like schedule appointments to get my hair done. When I would go home, I'd make a trip out of it, see my parents, and then I get my hair done. And that was really the basis of why I would go. Okay. To kind of get me set up and, get me like a trim, everything. And then I still wasn't relaxing. So she would wash, detangle. I would like detangle myself, leading up to it. She would kind of style it, kind of blow it out, things like that. Maybe flat iron it or whatever.
I was going to ask.
But I wasn't relaxing anymore. And then, just enough to like maintain it. But yeah, I was driving 4 hours to go back home to schedule appointments.
And now when I first started doing hair out here and I was, hearing more clients say, oh yeah, I drive to Dallas and I drive to Houston. I drive here to get my hair done. At first that used to shock me. But you saying you drove for 4 hours to get your hair done, it doesn't even shock me because it's like a thing that Black women have to do out here in Austin because there's no hairstylists out here for Black women that cater to specific needs that Black women need for their hair.
Well, it's like a common problem. So then I also ran into the issue of like someone be like, oh, yeah, I can do black hair. And then I'm like, can you really though? Like, what can you do to black hair? Because,
was this a Black stylist or was this?
I think she was like Hispanic or something, but she was recruiting like actively like people of color and like, more power to her. I didn't, nothing against her, but I was also kind of wary because one, I don't know you, and that's already like a boundary that you have to kind of step into.
Especially with curly hair. We're more vulnerable about who does our hair when we tap into this curly hair world. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially because I'm coming into it completely blind and I would like somebody to know what to do so I feel comfortable. Like I'm going to someone who, ideally would have this experience that I'm trying to tap into. And so if you're wary and I'm wary, like this is not already good.
The energy is not matching. It's matching, but not in a way where it needs to be in harmony.
Right. I'm willing to pay for what I need to pay for, but my thing is also I don't want to then regret months later having to, shell out this much money and then look in a mess.
For you to say she was Hispanic, there are a lot of Hispanic women that can take care and style textured hair. So that's even shocking to hear that she didn't appeal to what you were needing, But did she do your hair? Or was this a consultation?
It was a consultation and like she was more so encouraging me, to do protective styles. Like, you need to do this to protect your hair.
And you were still transitioning, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was more so like, that's fine to do, but also I want something that I can do myself every single day. And then coming to, a stylist to, cut, trim, all the good things to keep it
But
healthy.
you want to know how to maintain without
with my new texture that I'm trying to figure out.
Without a protective style. You know what?
Because at that point, I didn't even know my texture,
I didn't really because you had two different textures.
My mom had long, stick straight hair. She relaxed her hair.
Yeah. And then even you can't go by your mom. Your mom can have one texture. You can have some completely different. Your dad, all three of y'all can share different textures.
My dad's Hispanic on his side too. So like there's all kinds of things like
so I'm like, you could have tapped anywhere in that DNA and got a texture, So even with, at least with your mom and your dad, it's like some point of reference. Like, is it going to look like the two combined or one or the other, But I will say that was pretty good advice, to resort to protective hairstyles during a transitioning phase because it is very challenging to style two different textures because you have to treat them according to the textures. Right. So it's like on one half you have straight hair, then the other half is curly. And they both need specifically different things because one is still chemically treated and then one is not chemically treated at all. Right. So that's actually how I transitioned. I went from braids, I went from weaves because I knew if I didn't protect this to a certain extent, and I'm a low maintenance person, I was like, I'm not going to be doing this every day. Yeah. So it's kind of like you got to do what's best for you in those moments, according to like your lifestyle. Like, are you low maintenance? Are you high maintenance? But it sounded like you were willing to maintain in between. And then see me, I was not, And so I almost want to say she probably didn't quite know how to help you maintain it at home because it can be such a difficult journey. Some people have given up during that transition phase because they try to style it themselves in between and it's just a lot. And I was actually one of those people as a hairstylist. I was like, I can't do this. And I relaxed my hair. I had went an entire year and then I relaxed my hair. I was like, it's not long enough to cut for me right now, but I just rather just take the easy way out and just relax. And immediately I regretted it and I never got a relaxer again. Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to make it work. I'm going to stay committed, So I'm almost thinking like she probably resorted to that solution just because maybe in her small or large history of clients like you transitioning, it don't work out. It don't work out. Yeah. But that still doesn't omit the option of giving you the option to do it yourself. At that point, that's when
be real. Like, it's going to be a lot.
Or be real, like be transparent, we can do this, but this is what you need to do in between time. Right. And then from there we can decide if that doesn't work, we'll resort to the protective hairstyles, right? Yeah. Okay. So from the consultation, did you ever go back to this hairstylist to get your hair done, or what did you decide to do?
No, I did not. I think I was a little afraid. And so then that point, in my research of looking into other people, I actually was like, okay, what can I do in the meantime? Because my options look really sparse. So I started looking into more products then, instead of like things that I could do better for myself. And so I looked into like what kind of products I needed for my hair because I was transitioning, really like things to avoid.
So where were you resorting for this information? Like YouTube? Like where did you go to get these resources?
So I would ask my stylist back home, hey, like, because the things that I had, my hair would get really dry. Things that I mentioned to you when I started, my scalp would get really itchy, really dry. And then I would dry, like, my hair holds water forever, but it doesn't seem to. Yes, it does. But it doesn't seem to like do any good for it.
Yeah, low porosity, y'all. Yeah. That's what low porosity is. Your hair hold all that water, but it ain't penetrate no strands. That's a dead indicator you have low porosity.
Yes, so a lot of it was things to do overnight. So she would give me things to put in my hair, and then she was like, your hair is gonna hold this all night long. Just wrap it in a shower cap. Put a little bonnet over that shower cap. To really retain the moisture. And she was like, gave me good advice for that, which made it more manageable.
Okay, so that advice did help you.
Yes, because it was like my hair would get, from sweating or whatever, then it would like ball up, and then you try to go through it in the morning or whatever, and then start the whole process again.
Okay.
But she gave me advice for things like hair masks and oils and things to put in my hair at night. So then as soon as I put, something to them in the morning, that I was able to work with something in the morning.
Gotcha.
Whether it's detangling, because that will help me, later in the day, whether it's putting something that I'm going to be outside and all day, it'll at least hold some sort of moisture, whatever it was for that day. She gave me good advice for good products, for things that'll help it. Didn't necessarily like try to achieve a certain texture. I just was going for manageable at that point.
And taking care of the integrity of your hair.
Right. Because I had length, but it was definitely like I had to start doing something to it to actively take care of it as it was transitioning.
So what styles were you wearing in that time?
A lot of, so I had like, I pull it up into a puff. And so
even though your ends were straight, you were still able to manage a puff?
I was. Okay. And so the way that I did that, like I said, I'd kind of do like flat twists in the front or something, or braids in the front. A lot of it was kind of pulling it up to that crown area, which again was already naturally like puffy. And so I was able to kind of like work something into like a little high puff or high like bun or something, because I still had length. More so I would just kind of like wrap it around almost like a top knot situation, and then use bobby pins. I stopped using like hair ties and stuff and really just tried to use like the volume of my hair.
Yeah, because the hair ties, they will definitely remove it.
Yes.
And then for me, bobby pins give you a little bit of give.
Yes. Yeah. And it was like there was thin on the sides if I tried to pull it up, and I didn't want to brush it down to death with gel and stuff too.
Yes.
And so I did a lot of like creative like flowing with the puff up there until I could really get it into a style.
And was that your go-to, or that's just kind of one of the styles that you're sharing?
It was like my go-to for years, and it looked great. Like I had, different ways of pulling it, and you would never know that it was just, bobby pins. But for me, it was like kind of just boring, especially now that I have different hair texture and more to do with my hair. I realized that I was so bored with it and so limited, and I didn't want to chop it. Like I was very set on not chopping it.
So how long did you wait before how long did you transition rather? How long did you transition?
I think it was about 2.5, 3 years almost.
Ooh, that's a long transition.
It is. And again, like through the process of everything that I was doing, and then just like the high heat in Texas, I really had to like pay attention, because again, like I said, my hair's so dry at some points, and you know how Black people are. They'll be like, "Oh, what's going on with your head?" Like you
were getting those questions.
Oh my gosh, yes.
From who?
Family, always.
When you would go home,
because again, my family at the time, you realize I was one of the very first people, me and my aunt were the very first people in our family who went with our natural texture.
Okay.
Everyone relaxed.
And everyone was still relaxed. So I know they had so many questions for you.
Yes.
Even when you go completely natural and you make it, I mean, you style it in the most beautiful hairstyles, they will still question.
Kinetra, I could be coming from basketball practice. Girl, what's going on with your hair?
What do you want to be going on? I just came from basketball practice.
Yeah. I mean, you know how church folk and sometimes black people are.
Especially the elder generation. Yeah, they were definitely, and see, to me, that's even more interesting because they grew up in the era of the 70s where the fros and the puffs were popping. So I found it very... I still have
pictures of my parents with Jerry curls, so please tell me.
Right, so how is it that you can't relate to this in these moments? If it's anything, it should be people around my era, not y'all. Because y'all went through it all. Y'all were pressing your hair with Blue Magic. Yes. You got the relaxers that had lye in them. It was burning your scalp off. You went through the era of having fros. Y'all had freezes, finger waves. Like, y'all went through the most eclectic era ever when it came to black hair. And for some reason, I'm going natural. And it's so, I don't know. It's so foreign to you.
Well, I'll talk about it, but like it was a lot for me. I think that was the hardest part. I think realizing on the other end of it was I spent so much time trying to fight my natural hair that I was like not enjoying my hair. I told you when I was like, oh, I think the first things I said to you when I started was like, oh, my hair's this. Here are all the bad things about my hair. And like, I think you were the first person to say something good. I was like, wait, my hair's not broken. Wait, my hair's not bad. And you were the very first person.
And usually I always try to change the narrative and say, well, what do you like about your hair? Because, you know, I know that sometimes the negatives just stick out more than anything. Right. But it's like you gotta have something that you like, you know, something. And it's like, okay, let's work around that and then build from there, you know. And that way the positive things that you love about it will start being more in the forefront and the negative things become smaller and smaller and smaller, you know.
Right. It's like when I first step into those spaces, I was almost like trying to minimize, okay, like I'm gonna make it as most manageable as possible. I'm gonna detangle it, even if I have to wake up several hours before my appointment. You know, it was like a whole process of just trying to be comfortable when I'm there to be less of a burden to that person. Even though I'm paying for this service, you know, it's just like all the mind games surrounding all of that.
Okay. So let's back up because we never got to the point where you chopped the relaxed ends off. So you say you transitioned for about almost 3 years. Did you cut your own ends off?
So I would get trims.
Okay.
And that was when I would travel back to my hairstylist.
So eventually it's just from the trims, it became
then
natural.
It got to a point where she was like, there's just a little bit left. And again, it was like the last little bit of my bob and all of that. And she was able to kind of show me what it was supposed to look like by using kind of like hiding part of the part that she would cut off. And then she's like, see this part here, this is what it will do. She even like puts, I don't know what product it was, but she put something in it so that I could see that this is what it will do when it grips this natural texture.
Okay.
And so then I was more comfortable by that point, like letting go of
last little bit.
Right. Because it was going to be a little bit shorter and like... I say this all the time when I do my hair with you, but I'm very adamant about the way it looks around my face. Because if you don't have, you know, if you change too much around your face, then it kind of change the way you see yourself.
Absolutely.
And so I was really wary about that. But when she was able to kind of show me that, you know, this is still your hair, it's just going to be for a little bit, I was able to realize that each time I went, she trimmed more, not because like it's going away, but because it's growing out, because it needs to go.
It needs to go. And I'm telling you, like I have been through that as a hairstylist where clients, it's like literally a centimeter. It's like, it gotta go. It gotta go.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's that emotional attachment at that point because it literally has nothing to do with the physical attachment because it's not even really there. No. You know, so how many years did you drive back and forth to your stylist?
Up until I met you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that was years.
Yes.
Whoa.
I would, and I
tried. The good thing is
like
that you were very dedicated to, you know, your hair journey.
Yeah.
You know, because girl, like I just got tired of it and relaxed it. And you never went back to a relaxer once you transitioned over completely. No, because
then I would have to I had never relaxed it myself. I had always had either my mom do it or had somebody else do it. I had never done it myself. And so I was worried about, you know, then damaging something. Oh, the first time I do it, it's going to ruin this project.
Even if there was a stylist in Austin, you was just like, no, I'm not gonna. Did you ever have moments where you was like, you know what?
I did look into it, and especially because like obviously it's not so convenient to plan those trips. And so I was like, well, maybe, but then again, I get like overwhelmed, frustrated, whatever the case may be, because again, there's not very much here. So like I said, that's when I was really adamant about like, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit more on the products that I need. And then so I started looking at people who had texture like me. My aunt went natural. And so I would literally just, hey, what works on your hair? And then I'd buy this and I'd try it, you know. I had like a graveyard of products in my
Okay. So what products you felt like were like the go-tos? Like no matter what I do, this product never fails me. Do you remember?
So I started out with oils, which I know now we're moving away from the oils all of the time in some cases.
I mean, like I tell everybody, like you have to do what works for you.
Yeah.
Because this is what also makes the natural hair journey so just not enjoyable. It's like there's so much, it's like information overload, and a lot of it is wrong. A lot of it is so wrong, you know, and this creates the stress for going natural emotionally because of this information. And it's like, you really only need a little small hair care regimen.
Right.
That's for you, and move on. Because I hate when people come at the audience, no matter what platform you on, you come out so matter of fact. And you are so wrong. The majority of people out here are wrong about natural hair care because none of us share the same exact pattern. Right. And if you do have similarities in pattern, that does not mean you have the same porosity. So what works for you in hair products, because porosity is the ability for the hair to absorb moisture. So if you have high porosity, I have low, and she has medium, but our textures are similar, the product is not going to work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and until we understand that, that's when we're really going to take off on a natural, healthy, emotional hair journey.
Yes.
But because of this information, I tried that product. Her hair is very similar to mine. It didn't work out for me. It's not going to work out for you because one, it's similar. It's not the same. That's number one. Your textures are similar. It's not the same. And then you have to consider porosity, because I can't tell you how many natural heads I have touched and no one strands are even the same. Even on one head of hair. Right. Your hair ain't the same. You can have looser texture in the front and tighter in the back. So you really mean to tell me that your hair is just like hers? That's why it's not working out for you. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. You
don't
realize. It's like, oh, okay. Especially when they compare natural hair by like textures, by pictures. Yep. Like, oh, this is this texture. Yep. This is this texture. And so you think it's like one size fits all. Like, oh, I'm closer to this one.
And it's not. And that's why the advice I can give someone out there is find a natural hair care specialist. And then they will help you with a specific regimen catered to you, because if you don't even have the same hair strands as the people that brought you here in the world, there's no way you have the same hair strands as somebody you don't even know. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's one solution to helping you, you know, progress in your natural hair journey if you are struggling accepting your natural hair. Yeah. Okay, so now that you are fully transitioned, what are your next steps to taking care of your hair and just, you know, flowing through your natural hair journey?
So at that point, again, I was saturated with products. And so I was just kind of trying to maintain what would do for me. Like I can detangle my hair, just getting a weekly like schedule for myself. Okay. Did that. And then I started like wanting to do, you know, more with color. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to do relaxing. But then I was trying to look into like healthier color that wasn't using bleach. They had a lot of those like waxes and those
those temporary
things. And so I was like playing with my hair at that point. Then I started to try to do more. So at that point it was fully transitioned, as I mentioned, but it was again like some places were longer, some places were shorter. This is like, it was after it started to grow out within my actual texture. And so then that's where I was like, okay, I would trim some places. Like if I got knots, I would, cut those places. Like if I couldn't detangle them, or, I would really switch and find, like I got a Denman brush, things like that I really needed to have like staples. I started looking into like reducing the heat and things like that, just taking care of it, but things that I could do on myself that aren't me going to seek somebody out. Because again, I tried, figured out this is better for me.
So you did try to see a natural hairstylist once you fully transitioned?
When I fully did, yes.
Okay, so what happened there at that appointment? So I went to
someone in Houston.
Okay.
Because again, my aunt had already gone natural, and again, I'm still using people that I know and people
as
they
a resource.
Know. Right. And so I went to someone in Houston. She did my hair really well, but again, it was out of my area, and it wasn't, she was a little bit expensive as well. Like she charged me, and it was like a 4 or 5 hour process. And
what would you get done at these appointments?
So she like did like a treatment. She, convinced me that I need to do these detox and things. And I assumed it was because like, my hair is really dry. And so this is really supposed to help lock in the moisture. And that's what this whole process is for. I don't really know. Who knows? But again, she was like the old school style where you kind of had multiple people going at once. So it was a longer process than it actually
that's why you were there for so long. Okay,
right.
Got you.
And she just would put something like, I don't know, a mask or something on, on my hair.
And set you to the side.
Yes. Have me sit to the side. And that was like my big thing. When you were like, oh, I only schedule one at a time, I was like, sold. Done.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's the biggest deterrent. Because
my anxiety
has hair that's going to hold water until the next year. I was going to be there forever.
Yeah.
I knew it. So it really discouraged me to like go there. Again, she did my hair really well. She was the one who kind of showed me what a diffuser actually should do. I didn't really understand what the process was. Like, I'm like, it just looks like this little, strainer on top of a blow dryer. I don't understand what it actually is doing and what's important about it.
Right.
And she told me about like switching my towels when I dry my hair off, and
instead of
like
cloth.
That. Right.
What did she advise?
Microfiber.
Okay.
And then also there's like a thin one. I forgot what it is, but she had shown me this like thinner one that was basically like the equivalent of wrapping my hair up with it, but it just kept everything there, and especially
holding that
hair.
Moisture instead of drying out your hair.
Right. So she did give me great advice, and she was like an older lady, and she was really practical about the advice that she gave me. And she's like, I would tell you to use this, but again, it's probably really expensive. So, this is just as good, and it's probably easier to come by. Things like that, which were really practical for me. The time I was like 21, 22. And so I couldn't spend a ton of money, but it was really nice to like seek these things out. And then again, she was like, you only need to use a couple drops when you wash your hair, only a couple drops.
Yes.
Not like overloading. Because again, I'm thinking everything is like conditioner. I need to throw it in and, use as much as I can.
Yes. Okay. So what styles would you, like, how would she style your hair at the end of the appointment?
So then she was the one that kind of would do like flat twists or twists in the front. But a lot of it was just naturally free flowing. But she would do things to frame my face.
Good.
So I didn't have to like add a bunch of things. At the time, I liked wearing headbands, and so she would show me different ways that I could pin it back, and it would look different ways of parting. So I was very adamant.
Good. She educated you.
She did.
That's amazing.
Again, and not just here's what I want, because again, people go in, I want this style, and it's like, girl, your hair is not going to do that. So she actually showed me that, girl, your hair ain't going to do that, but this is what your hair can do.
Okay.
By doing
very realistic.
If you like to wear your hair parted this way, I will show you a couple of styles that you could do this way, or you could do this and then pin it back. And so there was a lot of things that she showed me that I could still do that didn't change the way that I looked to myself, but also gave me something to do with my hair.
Okay. So you would use her regimen at home as well.
Right.
Did that work out for you, or did you feel like you kind of struggled here in between?
It was a little bit here and there, but then I realized that when it got harder that I needed to do more to my hair. So I needed to really detangle it. I need to spend time, putting more conditioner, leave-in, whatever. That's
Why would it get harder? What do you mean?
Because my hair would get like, throughout the week, it wasn't easy to like refresh the curls. I would need to, in between, closer to when you need to wash, but you don't necessarily need to have a full wash day.
Right.
Like learning the balance between those things, and like, simply I could have sprayed it with, water, and then really, worked it with my hands, and then put a little product here and there, and then did something else, and it would have looked just as great. But again, I'm so used to everything being stick straight, everything being in place, that in my
mind, you didn't
mind,
allow yourself to have the creative freedom of what your natural hair just want to do.
Right, because I was thinking of like worst case when it was going to get really tangly, it's going to start breaking off, I'm going to get fairy knots. So I was really trying to like, what can I do to avoid that instead of like, your hair is naturally going to revert like that.
Yes.
So you need to work with it instead of against it.
Absolutely. That is music to my ears, that I'm always informing clients, like, please just work with your hair. Your hair is going to do what it wants to do.
Yes, always.
Unless you are about to go through an extreme process to manipulate it. Other than that, it's going to do whatever it wants to do in its natural state for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, right? So it sounds like the hairstylist in Houston definitely educated you and dropped gems to help you at home with how to take care of your hair, how to upkeep style, etc. Right?
Absolutely.
So you did mention you experienced some challenges. You know, even though she gave you a guide, you did still experience challenges at home. So can you help us, you know, understand it, like walk us through that situation whenever you experience that?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, the whole time when I was transitioning, I really just wanted to avoid chopping my hair. So when I finally did, I was like still battling that, okay, like this is okay, it's fine. Like I'm liking what it's doing, but just getting used to the in-betweens where the way that it changes. Again, my hair is so thick, but it shrinks up.
Yeah, major shrinkage.
So tight. So for me, even though my hair's super long, that was really daunting for me, is when my hair would shrink up. And it's like, I've worked so hard to grow this. Like, what the hell? Like, where is it?
Yeah, that's true. Because it's like, I have length.
Yes.
I stretched my curls and the length is there, but when water hits my hair, it shrinks back up to my scalp. If you are one of those people, that what your hair is saying is you have very skinny hair strands. And if you think about a skinny hair strand opposed to a fat hair strand, a skinny hair strand has no weight. So it's not going to be able to, you know, hold the weight. Yeah, there's no weight to keep it down and stretch. Right. But when you have skinny hair strands, it's so light that as soon as water hit it, it's just going to revert back. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is.
So that for me was even still, like, I have to be wary about, you know, if I want a certain style, it's like, okay, it looks great right now. But the second any moisture, it's going to shrink up a little bit. So I need to get used to, you know, what it's going to look like in those in-between stages. And so for me, that was my biggest insecurity, was feeling like, because, you know, everyone's like, oh, you're bald headed, like that just natural thing. And so it's for me, and especially with coming from a family of like long, thick hair, that was for me was my biggest insecurity, is when my hair would be at those moments. My dad would always, you know, make comments, oh, you know, your hair, you know, it looks like a boy, or oh, your hair. And it was like in fun. It wasn't, you know, it was like teasing, kind of fun. It wasn't anything.
It was harmless from him,
right? But also
it
fed into.
But how you received it, especially coming from your dad, because you know your dad loves you and he thinks you are the most beautiful girl in the world. But a lot of parents do not understand how some of their comments, especially aesthetically towards us, can be so daunting.
I'm the baby and the only girl, and like, that too was really, and I look just like you can cover up our hairlines and we all look the same.
Gotcha.
So for me, that was really gave me a lot of extra pressure. It was like, I need to discern that I'm a girl. I need to show that I'm a girl, especially that, like, if I weren't at a position like where I'm wearing makeup right then, I need to, for me, it was very much about being feminine and not masculine. And
because of the comment that was made.
Right. And again, my dad was very adamant about like not chopping our hair. Like when I chopped my hair into a bob, I was like, that was me rebelling, because I was like, I'm going to college.
Good for you.
I'm away from my parents. I can do whatever I want.
Yes.
And that was for me, because I don't want to have to deal with it. It was just hot. And so that was my thing. So just battling those natural instincts that I had within myself, and just, you know, trying to navigate what I look like. I'm a plus size girl. So like making it too short around my face. I have a very round oval face.
Yes.
Full cheeks, big eyes, big lips. So for me, again, I didn't want to look too crazy. Like, you know, if I'm wearing makeup and stuff, my hair needs to look just as big as every other feature on my face. And so when it would shrink up, that would make me really anxious.
What styles were you resorting to in order to balance and complement your features?
So I did, again, puff was kind of my go-to, and that's because it kind of balanced, even though I could really stretch my hair and pull my hair and blow it out a little bit to make it bigger.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't have to do, like, I'm not adding any extra length. It's literally just from it shrink up to then blowing it out a little bit extra fuller. I would also kind of, like I said, frame my face, do a little bobby pin action, do some little flat twists or something.
You would frame your face where hair was coming forward? Got you. Okay.
And so I wear a lot of like bandanas and stuff and tie it up almost like, things
yeah.
like that. So I would do stuff at the crown of my hair, and then maybe something in the front. Maybe if I had bangs or something that day, I was starting to play around with, because when I had my bob, I had like the swoop bangs.
Okay.
So I was so used to, I always talk about this now. It's like, I'm used to having something in my face.
Your face.
Yes.
Okay.
And so for me, again, because I also at that point was trying to hide like my forehead. By that point, at this point, didn't care. But when I first kind of chopped my hair, that was the whole idea. So I really needed to find something that I could do with my natural hair. So I would kind of, where I had my bangs, I would kind of puff it out a little bit and really have like puffy bangs.
Okay.
Fuller again.
Just trying to add that volume to compensate.
Just something that I was used to looking at again. Yeah, and so that was kind of how I balanced it. But again, I had to kind of figure out my own because I'm only black friend for a lot of years. And so having to navigate like looking put together or, appropriate for where I am, but also like dealing with completely different texture. Like if I go swimming or something, if we happen to get wet, my hair is going to look completely different than my friends.
So do you feel as though your dad may have had an influence on your styling, when it came to making sure your hair was pushed forward, like you're, styling your hair intentionally forward and, wearing makeup or anything to make you feel and look more feminine? Do you feel like your dad had an influence on that?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm very much dark color, bright, like jewel tones kind of person. But my dad is Southern Baptist, so he's very churchy. He's very like, these are this goes over
and
here.
You need
this
long
is over
hair
here.
too.
Right. And he was like I like to wear bandanas to tie up my hair. I would always get, in trouble for that because it was, that's gang affiliated. And it was like, I'm just trying to tie my hair up. And so he was very adamant about certain boundaries. So then when it came to like, the way that I looked, my mom always had, like I said, long hair, curls, all the things. She styled her hair. She was a nurse, so she really couldn't do anything fun with her wardrobe. She would always do stuff with her hair and her makeup.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of what he just kind of put me into. My mom always did my mom didn't play sports, so I was, sweaty and running around and coming from practice.
Rightfully
my mom
so.
was in dance and, ballet. Like,
oh, she was more dainty.
So again,
and you were an athlete.
Right. And so it's
y'all are two completely different people.
Not the same thing in our hair.
What about his mom?
His mom, she was like musical, so she did like
dainty.
Artsy. Yes,
yeah,
artsy.
Dainty. Yeah, can be very dainty.
Not so much sports and stuff, which is fine. I have two older brothers. My dad played sports. Like I grew up on,
but you grew up around boys too.
And
that's going to be an influence.
So it makes sense that I'm always around.
So your dad was a coach.
Yeah, my brother's coaches. Yeah, baseball.
Oh, so of
football.
course, you kind of become. Whatever whatever you are exposed to, that's what you probably going to be engaging in.
Right. And again, because I'm playing sports, my hair is only going to go in certain places and then it's going to go right back up out of my face.
Absolutely.
So he was very adamant, we'd make comments. So when I would see him, my hair would be like out of whether a bun, whatever I had it in, would be out in free form because I'm at home. I'm done with my day.
Right. I'm relaxed.
Now the equipment, I would be walking around with a bonnet. But again, like, you can't do that. You can't wear your silk scarf anywhere. There's those parameters.
No bonnets in public. No. Gotcha.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's just kind of jumping from one hoop into the next hoop and like trying to figure out, okay, like here's my put togetherness out in the world. But even when I come home, I have to put my put togetherness.
So trying to appeal to like the people you love dearly and people that you don't even care about.
Right.
Not on that extent at all. That's a lot.
Right. And so then coming back into my parents' house, as an adult, I feel like I'm back in that space. So it's again, like, I felt like, okay, let me wash my hair before I make that drive because they, your hair's looking a little dry or, what have you been doing to your hair was the question. What have you been doing to your hair? What does that mean?
What is that? What is that now?
Like, is that you saying it looks great? What have you been doing? Or is that you saying like something's missing? What's up?
Yes. Okay. So did you also receive the comments from your mom or it was just mostly your dad?
No, so much my mom. Mm-hmm. More so, it was more so my dad. I think the things that came with my mom were genuine like questions because again, she had relaxed and then everyone was starting to be more natural around her. And so she was more so just like, how is that? So hers were genuine like questions, curiosity. But again, like my biggest struggles in all of those things were how I perceive myself, and then also how the world's perceiving me. Like my husband's white, and so there's a whole different ball game when it comes to being a black person in a space with white people, being a female with white people, being a black woman in corporate. I'm a scientist. I work in corporate world. I work in schools. I work with children. So number one, I'm having to perceive how are people going to see me coming into this space. I have tattoos. I have piercings. I'm very well educated, but also I'm dealing with all of those things. Okay, what's it going to look like?
Can't just focus on my job.
Right. Right.
Like, I'm a great resource here if you stop putting attention on my aesthetic and actually on my intellect. Right. Right? Yeah, because, So, being that not only did you have to experience some type of aesthetic judgment at home, you also had to experience it in the workplace. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to take it as though, like you did mention that your coworkers were mostly white.
Yep.
So how would your white counterparts receive you, being that you do have naturally curly hair and piercings and tattoos? How would that, be for you? Like a normal work day where you just want to go to work and do your job.
Right.
How would that be for you? Like, walk us through a work day.
Well, I'm sure this is not unique, but it's the, oh my gosh, your hair. It's like the, oh my, like you walk into and there's this big exhibit that they're seeing, it's like eyes. Oh my gosh, they know not to touch. I've definitely had moments where people have touched my hair. That's always really weird. And
just walk up to you and say,
they'll say, oh my gosh, your hair.
And then start touching.
Little, hover over your hair kind of thing. But they know not to touch, but they still do because they kind of know you. So they know that it's okay. But then I'm like, what?
It's not okay.
You don't pet people.
Right. I'm not an animal.
No.
And I'm not an exhibit project.
That's
I'm not
on irks me is like they look at you like, for me, it's like the exoticizing. It's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen something so weird and cool at the same time. Like, I'm a person. It's like, it makes me feel uncomfortable that they're so surprised by my hair.
Yeah. And to have that personal experience.
Right.
And see, I've never had that because I've worked alone for years, especially since I've been natural. But I have had an experience where, to make a very long story short and not go and dive into the back end of how I was sitting at a round table with, white people. And they actually were Russian too. They were Russian, white, and German. And there was a model there that really loved my hair. And she complimented it and, said a lot of nice things about it. But she did ask me, do you mind if I touch your hair? She did ask me. And I said, well, don't take offense when I say I'm not okay with it. And she was fine and we moved on.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, that's such a weird situation to have to like go through. Anytime anybody's touched my hair, I'm again, I work with autistic kids, so I'm very clear about, this is a terrible thing that you model for kids.
Yes,
they're just going to walk up to people.
Especially working with autistic
it's not
kids.
Nice. It makes people feel weird. I usually will kind of like, if it's someone who I work with who knows that they should not be asking that or doing those sort of things, it's like I'll do the same thing back to them, and it's like, this is weird, right? We're doing these weird things to each other.
And I actually informed my daughter. Now, my daughter went through that in gymnastics because, let's be honest, like gymnastics, now today you can see a lot of people of color in that sport. But
taking it over.
But seriously, but back then when my daughter was in gymnastics, it was still very white predominant, and she had this one girl that would always touch her hair.
No.
And I watched my daughter one time, defend herself by pulling her hair because she was touching my daughter's hair. I watched my daughter turn around and I don't know what she said, but I know she told her, stop touching my hair. So my daughter turns back around, is getting ready to run on the vault, and the girl touches it again. So my daughter reached around and yanked her ponytail. And guess who got in trouble?
Of course she did.
My daughter did not get in trouble.
Oh! Surprise. Good.
No, but it created this entire situation where I went to the Facebook group meeting letting people know that, you know, like basically the parents in the group, listen, giving them all the rundown about what we continuously have to repeat about not touching our hair.
That is the issue.
Yeah.
Just let me explain to you why I don't want you touching my hair.
Constantly repeating. And I repeated it. And I also told them, however my daughter chooses to defend herself, because at that point you're being invasive and disrespectful.
You already came
You're
into her
touching
place.
My daughter. My daughter is taught, if anybody touch you, by all means, you have the right to defend yourself if you have given them a verbal warning. You know, so I told them, I'm just letting y'all know it. Please tell your daughters to stop touching her hair. And since I said she is allowed to defend herself, I don't feel safe bringing my daughter to practice anymore.
Of course.
Right. And so, and then it became this thing where it's like, okay, we have to have a parent meeting because now they don't feel safe bringing their daughter to practice because now Dominique is a threat.
Because she reacted like any other typical person
would have reacted, right? So we get into this meeting and I'm like, okay, I already know what this is about to be. My daughter's about to be the problem. I'm about to be the problem because of what I said, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, right? But that coach got in there and she was like, look, no one should be touching anyone. And if your daughter continues to touch another gymnast after they have been verbally warned by the other gymnast, you can just get kicked off. You know,
Good.
She was like, at the end of the day, your daughter is not focused on what she needs to be focused on if she's constantly touching someone. And touching is just inappropriate, period. You know? And the crazy thing is the aura in the room initially was, yeah, we about to have this meeting and you are about to get it together. But it was flipped. Good. And everybody left uncomfortable except for me.
Good.
And the other people of color in that room. And I was even shocked because I was not expecting for it to go that way. Like she literally made it the other person's issue. And it was not my daughter's issue. But it also helps the fact that my daughter is a respectable young lady. And they know like it's not Dominique. Because Dominique is the most focused, the most respectful, the most disciplined gymnast out here. I know you're the problem without even having to see it. And that's why I talk to my kids about having a respectable reputation. It goes a long way. I just sat there and I didn't have to say nothing, Jerrica. But yeah, so back to you. I had to share that, you know, but back to you.
I'm glad it went that way because that's not common.
It's not common. It's not common. And I felt so... Just finally, somebody, if not all of you get it, I know her coaches, they get it. And it felt good, you know? Yeah. And my daughter felt safe again, you know, because they don't understand when you don't listen, now she don't feel safe and now she can't focus and do what she need to do, you know? So, okay, so back to you. So people would come up to you, ask you, can they touch your hair? Have you ever allowed someone to touch your hair?
I think the only time I did is if I had braids in or something.
Ooh.
And that makes sense. But I'm comparing
Why do you still want to touch the braids?
Exactly. I'm comparing it to someone who like, because for us, it's like, apparently when we go to the salon, it's like we're getting a whole like facelift. Like we're getting something so crazy and brand new. Whereas people go to, it's always like, I'm going to get my hair done. I'm getting my hair done. Like they're doing this and they get like highlights or they hold the, whatever they do to their hair. And
haircut.
It's not a huge thing. Oh, your hair looks cute. That's is all it is. Oh, I love that new thing.
That's true.
For us, it's like, oh my gosh, can I touch? Like I've never once gone out of my way. Can I touch your hair?
No, I don't want to. It feels invasive. It feels invasive.
It's hair. It is hair.
Yeah.
It is hair.
It's not a foreign object.
Like I really don't understand, and that's why it bothers me when employers like make such a big deal. I've luckily never had to like experience like being discriminated against as far as like, my hair.
Okay.
I know that it's definitely something that I had to navigate myself. I think going into it, luckily I worked in schools, and so there's lots of different people in schools. You know, I've never had to deal with any of those things. I never put any crazy colors in my hair, so I never had to deal with any of that. I think for me, a lot of it was just like, okay, how can I navigate? How can I look put together in this space? I didn't want to be the person that were like, you know, why is her hair looking all crazy like that? And she's, you know, in business clothes or something.
Absolutely.
I think that was for me, it was like the mismatch, and was like, what can I do with my natural state to still look put together? And what can I do to make sure that I'm still having fun and doing what I can with my hair, respecting my hair? I'm not going to like pop in and out of like, you know, this is my hair. So what can I do with it?
But you were still wearing your curls.
Absolutely.
Okay, because, you know, there are some situations where Black women won't wear their natural hair because of their job. And
and I work with autistic kids, and so my kiddos are aggressive, and so naturally in our field, you put your hair up because it will get pulled. You know, I wear glasses, so I take off my glasses. So there's things that I do at work that are different than most cases. Right. But it just so happens that it was nice that my hair is thicker, and so if they try to pull my hair, it ain't good. Their hands are gonna get tangled in my you know, at least it'll help me. They can't drag me all around the room. You know?
Because you know, your hair defies gravity, so it's not like hanging. You know what I'm saying? Where it can be so easily accessed to manipulate in any kind of way that they will want to.
Right.
You know?
And so there's nothing really. I never really had to deal with any of those things, but I definitely did. It was definitely a mental game, and for myself, getting comfortable. Okay, this is your hair. Like, this is your hair. Because in my mind, like, for me, I had more formal styles when I had my straight hair. I had more, you know, playful styles when I had my straight hair. With my curly hair, it's like, what can I do? I part my hair differently. I put my hair up in different ways. I do flat twists, you know, maybe with bobby pin, pulled up, with scarves. So there's definitely different things that I can do. And there's things that I'll wear in my hair that I won't maybe wear to work or something. Okay. But it's my hair. Like, it's I'm not going to make this huge overhaul change to go to my work, you know, 9 to 5.
Was there ever a day where you were styling your natural hair and you're like, what are they going to say? What are they going to think?
The first time I wore my fro, I think for me.
Oh, the fro is the one, right? You can wear like some
It's a commitment because you can do some half, because I've done some half ones.
I was about to say, you can like have half froed out and then have a top knot at the top or something like that.
Before I did my fro at work, I gave myself confidence. I did a fro hawk outside of work. Okay. Because I really had to get used to how my hair looks.
It's like you're prepping yourself emotionally and mentally before you go to work.
Absolutely. Because I needed to know the reactions of when I do something crazy for when I do something that's literally laid back, because I'm not nothing.
But it's not like that for other people. No. So it's like I have to mentally and emotionally.
Because what's the equivalent for a white girl, let's just say? What's the equivalent of like the same thing, you know?
Yeah, like that's true. But I guess if they were like, I'm going to, I don't know, use some wax color and do like a bright, crazy neon pink. Right. You know.
But why is that our natural hair considered crazy? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. That lets you know right there that you we know like our hair is perceived a certain way. And I have to, not too much.
It's the word like nappy, raggedy. It's like, for me, those are the connotations that I hear in my head.
And not doing too much
Black
to
people,
it.
You know, say that, you know, you look nappy headed, you know, things like that. There's things like that are negative connotations that we've heard our whole life. Yeah. That I think are easy to revert back to when I'm in those moments where I'm like, am I okay with this? Like, I want to be okay with this. Yes. But then it's like, everyone has those insecurities, you know? And so it comes up. I think it's funny that those things come up, because in my mind, I'm like, my hair, this is me with nothing in my hair. Nothing. I'm not tying it back. I'm not pinning it back. My hair is just out.
And what would you do if they never created straightening systems, even temporary straightening systems, where it's like you can get a keratin treatment or, you know, a silk press or whatever the case may be? What would y'all do? This is my hair.
Absolutely.
This is how it naturally comes out of my scalp. So if no one would have ever created all of these tools and all these different resources that you can resort to in order to loosen the texture, what would y'all do? You know what I'm saying? What would you be doing? You wouldn't hire me because my hair naturally and organically coils, curls, waves, whatever the case may be, besides straight out of my scalp.
It's funny because we now have like legislation where they're saying it's Crown Act, you know.
Why is that even in existence?
And the thing is, I just saw in this school year on a news story that a black boy, he had locks and he had his hair tied up.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was a football player.
I saw that.
And he got suspended because of his hair, saying it wasn't natural and it wasn't. Excuse me?
Let me tell you something. If we don't run a comb and a brush and detangle this hair, it's going to naturally lock up.
But he was a football player. He had locks. He had his hair tied up to be within regulations of all the things because it couldn't come hanging down. Like he was doing all the things that he needed to.
Yep. But it was
short
still
of shaving his freaking head.
But still.
And now they're going to be sued because it's now a violation of a law.
Yeah.
So now you've now brought
a legal issue
of this stuff, and now your school, it looks like it's discriminating over
it is discriminating
literal hair over something that just could have been like, maybe all intentions it was for safety because of football, you don't want to get pulled by all of that. Totally get. He did what he needed to do. You also could have been like, okay, I'm gonna put this headband and you're required to wear it underneath. If it was all about safety, then make it about safety. Yeah, but you're making it about the hair and the control part that you want him to shave his head.
And you are discriminating at that point, you know.
And it just makes no sense because like we can be well-intentioned within ourselves, and I did all of the work of like really getting myself there and pushing myself to feel comfortable and doing those things. I'm so blessed that I don't have any just, you know, things pushing back against me. I don't feel uncomfortable. I took my first ID photo and I was like, I'm going big hair. I'm going the whole night, like everything. I didn't. The last time I got my professional headshots done, I took out my nose rings. I was like,
I get that.
You know, things like that. I get that. But this time I was like, you know what? Like, I got here on my own. I'm going to be who I am. I never alter my appearance in interviews. So why am I going to alter my appearance
for a headshot?
Yeah. Because again, that's what people, sometimes it's going to be the only thing that people see. They may not see me in person.
Especially
they may
everything
hear or
being
see my
so
work.
online and virtual. Absolutely. That's true.
So I think that was for me the biggest jump was like getting there. I was realizing that like, I want to be a good model for people behind me. I want to be a good model for my kids that I work with. And I want to do something. I'm going to make people uncomfortable. I'm going to make you say the quiet part out loud.
Because I'm uncomfortable having to prep emotionally and mentally. So I'm going to make you uncomfortable so you can see how it feels. Absolutely.
And that's how I am about my tattoos too. I cover like when I'm going into school settings, mostly just because of my own, just for my own personal
But that was always a thing universal. It was never a black thing, a white thing. That was for everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
But then now too, I think I am adamant about like, this is my natural hair. Like it's funny if someone sees me and I have like braids or something in, I'm always interested to see what they perceive me when I have my like natural hair and not like a protective style. Because again, I never look crazy or whatever. No. I always look, again, what always irks me about those statements is that, you know, oh, you need to look presentable and professional and those things. It's like I am presentable. This is my hair. This is what do you want me to do?
Exactly. Because like I mentioned, at the end of the day, if it wasn't for all these straightening systems and anything that we could do to manipulate our hair to make anyone feel comfortable, this is how I would be showing up.
You would just say, be presentable. There's nothing else that you need to say. And if there is a need to say, that's a different conversation.
It is.
It's about you're not taking care of yourself and like holding a standard. That has nothing to do with the type of hair that grows out of my head.
My hair is clean. It's combed.
It takes a long time to do.
Right. And let's not even get into the depths of how I have to even make it presentable. You know, so, but it's not unprofessional. And that's where that line of presentable and unprofessional, they mix up, and they not only mix it up, but they don't quite understand the difference between those two words. It's like, no, I'm presentable and professional. Now, if I came into the work establishment and my hair was, you know, matted on one side and then the other side is froed out and, you know, it just looked like I put no effort into being presentable.
Presenting an image is a part of your job. I can understand that.
Anyone's
if
job.
There's something I'm selling, or there's something that I have to fit that specifically has, you know, a way to look. I can't even think of something. Maybe like a cheerleader, or, you know, a dance. Something
like
about the way
like a uniform,
right?
Like
if it was
in a
about
uniformed
the way. You
way.
present, I get that. You have every right, and also I probably agreed to it. But what you're not going to do is try to like make me fit into some imaginary box, especially like pay me more and I'll do it, maybe. But then let's talk about it. But you're not going to like put some sort of expectation for me to show up in a certain way, or me showing up as I am is not good enough.
As you are. So with you having to face this certain level of emotional consciousness of how you are to present your hair in the workplace, you know, being that you are married to a white man, how did that also transition into you, you know, dating? You know, did you think about like, oh my goodness, like how is he going to perceive my hair, and should I straighten my hair, or, you know, what do I need to do to my hair to make it more, is it going to make him uncomfortable because of, you know, how our hair is perceived to the white community? So, you know, walk us through that. Like, tell us all about that.
So I didn't really think about it. I think at first, when it did come across my mind, was meeting parents. And that to me then was really interesting, because very different. We, you know, don't have a relationship anymore that had some falling outs. And again, it was because of racism, but it was really interesting going into that, because I kind of like, again, they're like country folk, and I was just, you know, over perceiving like, oh, they're gonna, you know, give me some grief. And so I wanted to look, again, presentable. Ooh. Like in my mind, it was like,
so not for him, but you did make a subconscious decision when you went to meet his parents,
right? And for him, I didn't do it for him, because at that point, like, he pursued me. So at that point, I had my natural hair.
It's like, oh, so you like me the way I am,
right? So I didn't really think about it. And what it did, like I said, when it did come up was when I was meeting his parents, and that was more so because, like, this is my hair, and again, curly hair sheds, and there's all kinds of things that come along with that. And so I was just kind of like, my poor husband had to figure that. I was like, sorry, I have lots of hair. My hair sheds. I clean up, you know, all those things. It's just how it is. Curly hair.
Yeah.
But so I was very conscious of that when meeting his parents. I don't think I did really anything. I think I wore like headband, like the most like generic, no craziness. I don't think I did any sort of flat twists or even things like that could even perceive like too ethnic or too whatever.
Do you feel as though if you were, would you have been that, you know, conscious about, you know, your decision making and your hairstyle if you was married to a man of color?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think a lot of that happened to be how I grew up. I grew up around just predominantly white people. Yes. It was always like, oh, you know, you talk proper, like, oh, you think you're white, that sort of thing. So I was already kind of
talking like, proper is associated with being white.
Just ridiculous.
It's like, no, that's not a white thing.
But it definitely feeds into like the mental kind of anguish that you're going through in those moments. And so I was really anxious about meeting his parents for that reason. About many others, but mostly, again, the first impression. It's like, what am I going to look like? What am I going to feel like? At that time, I don't think I started wearing a bonnet even around my husband. Like, obviously, we were dating.
So you did subconsciously think about that.
I didn't even really start doing those things until I was like, okay, you're messing up your hair for what, girl? Like, I'm putting more work into my hair for what?
How long did that take before you transitioned to the bonnet while y'all were together?
I would say maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And that was because, like, we were still like, he wasn't staying over as much. And so I think when he was staying
y'all weren't
over
living together.
Right. If we were staying as long and like full term, then naturally you're going to see me wearing this bonnet.
Did you feel like he wouldn't find you attractive or questioning? You didn't want to deal with it?
I didn't want the questions.
Yes. You didn't want to deal with it.
I didn't want the questions, because I did the same thing when I would do like competitions and stuff in high school. Like I would have to wear it then, because it was like, my mom did my hair and I'm not going to see her for 2 days. Girl, you better cover this up and keep it straight. So that's when I got the, and they would ask me questions. So do you know, that
just getting curious.
Yes. And the way that they say, they know that it's uncomfortable.
Because the way they ask is uncomfortable. Yes. The energy is uncomfortable. You know, whenever they do ask questions outside of what they should be, intrigued by, so.
And my husband, even when he feels uncomfortable, I think he is uncomfortable because he's like, I know that this is probably like, this comes across weird. I'm sure you probably get this all the time, but he asked in genuine nature, like, I want to know. And now it's like,
he needs
we talk
to
about
know.
Having kids, like, you need to understand this thing. And he knows when he started using he used one of my brushes, and he has waxy hair products. And what is that going to do? Flake in my hair. And I was like, who used, I get so fired up. And I had to explain to him, this is why, blah, blah,
You cannot use my brush. He's good about it
now. But again, definitely, I think it took like a year and a half, almost 2 years for him to really like
see you
settle into like, this is the things. And he also sees the products that I put in my hair and the shelves and shelves of things that I have.
So how did he perceive the bonnet whenever you wore it for the first time? Like, and how did you feel? Like, when you had it on, was you caught off guard? Like, he showed up at your doorstep and you had the bonnet on? Like, walk us through that, like, the first time you saw you with the bonnet on.
I couldn't make eye contact because I've never want, I don't want the whole, like, oh my gosh, I told you, like, the, wow, your hair kind of thing. I didn't want that. Even when I do something different to my hair now, I like the very nonchalant, like, oh my gosh, it looks great. Like, love
you
your
just
hair.
don't want the attention and the energy sometimes. I get it.
It's a lot. And especially because I don't want to go through the whole journey of my hair. Like,
it's exhausting. How long does it
take? And it's like, it takes as long as it takes.
It's
I don't know the process.
So it's like, I just want to get through the day as a normal human being. Right. I don't want to be noticed by my hair,
It's a compliment and then being noticed are completely different,
That's true.
And I don't mind a compliment. I love, like, hype me up. Yes. But also, like, when you make this whole moment in space about this change that I made, which you yourself probably just did, but we didn't have a whole conversation about it. And I think that's what always made me really uncomfortable. Yes. So when he first did, I didn't make eye contact because I was like, no, I don't want the eyes. I don't want the whole thing. And he was like, what? He just asked me, like, what do you wear that for? And it was literally like, retains the moisture instead of going to the pillow, and it keeps my hair from, getting messed up. Like, that's as much as it was, and that was it.
Yes.
And it was a genuine question because it's like, I don't use a bonnet.
Right.
And so it was a genuine question. I think I didn't mind it then.
But most are now using bonnets. They are learning that how this is very beneficial for all hair, not just black people's hair or curly hair, because there are some white people with curly hair, but they probably weren't wearing bonnets either. Right. But it's beneficial for all hair, straight all the way down to the kinkiest texture. So we kind of jumped around on the subject because we went from talking about your in-laws to your husband with the bonnet. So I was like, ooh, I want to get on that. We come back to the in-laws. Yeah. So what about, so you were very conscious of like not wearing any culture related black hairstyles. Yeah. Right? Okay. So, share some more light on that with us, please.
I think I think it all stems from not wanting the conversation, not wanting the questions, not wanting especially like if I had done like full like braid down or something where it would be beneficial for my hair, well within natural hairstyles, something that every black person will do, has done, whatever. Yep. I just didn't want to have to explain that. I didn't want to be the representative, of the community for them in that moment.
Because it's all about getting to know me. Yeah. I'll teach you one day because you need to know because you have a black daughter-in-law. Right. But not today. Today is about getting to know me as a person, as a human being, and that I'm a good fit for your son. That's it.
Yeah. Right? Well, and that too, it's like, I don't want to give you something that then you can try to use against me. So for me, that was like what I was feeling weird about, was because like they would always saying some things out of pocket, and I was just kind of like, okay. Taking notes. Not necessarily to me, but it was just like, you're comfortable saying this out loud. What are you gonna, when you feel more comfortable, what are you gonna say?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like what I was keeping, on my radar on. But mostly I think it was just, like I said, I don't want the looks. I don't want this whole thing. And then I also didn't want them to say, anytime I do something, oh, now what's this? I didn't want to explain
that question. What, is that a
cornrow? I didn't want to go through the whole process.
Girl, I'm up here rubbing my shoulder listening because I'm getting uncomfortable listening.
Right? It's just like, it's something I just didn't want to have to go down. And so I put, consciously made steps to make it just not even an option, just bare bones, puff, ponytail, just back.
Very bare minimum.
Just no effort. My hair's in a ponytail. That's just what it is.
Mm-hmm. Did they ever get to a point where they did question your hair?
No, I don't think so. And I think the only time I think I've ever been asked anything was when I've gotten braids done. And the most common thing is, how long does that take?
Okay.
Which is fair.
And that is a fair question because we ask each other because we're trying to figure out, do we want to even sit that long,
right. Yes.
And for them, it looks like a lot, because braids is a lot, you know. So that is a fair question. That is That's a generalized question.
Now that I was talking about it, I think one of the things that did come up was when I first like had my hair like out, and now I don't remember if it was in a fro or if it was like in a puff or like even, you know, high puffs, 2 of them or something. But I do remember them kind of be asking like, is that basically like alluding to, is that your real hair? Is that a weave?
Okay.
Because if it looks different than I had it the prior time, they just assume that
they don't understand it can do a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's magic up here.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and especially like if from just how it is naturally like tight, and then if I blow it out a little bit, if I, you know, stretch it the day before, if it's coming out of, you know, twist outs or something,
it's gonna look different.
It's gonna look different every time, and I don't think they understood that part of it. So maybe it could have been very innocently, but I think that's the only the time that I can think of that really I got those. Oh my gosh, like, is that real? And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even that my hair was longer. It was just like, it looks different.
The texture was just manipulated differently. That was it. Yeah. Okay. So that's good that you never had to feel uncomfortable about your hair, because some questions are just like, that feels wrong coming out. Come on now.
Well, how do you approach that situation? Like, people like, you know, oh my gosh. Like, if it wasn't real, like, it's how I'm wearing my hair. You know, if someone dyes their hair, you wouldn't say, is that your real hair? Like,
is that your real hair color?
Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's what I always like weary about. I didn't necessarily feel uncomfortable, you know, doing different things to my hair, because I mean, I was going to do what I was going to do, and if you don't like it, I'm just going to drive back home to my house.
Yeah, because I don't have to be here. Your son loves me at this point.
Exactly.
Because
So I was fine, kind of, it is what it is. But I think those are the only ones that really made me uncomfortable, was like almost alluding like, just because it's something different
doesn't mean that it's
real.
fake.
Like, it can't believe it's, you know, something that belongs to me.
Can do all these different things.
Yeah.
It's versatile for sure, you know. So what has your husband learned about hair being married to a Black woman now? Like, what do he know now? Because I see some of the funny TikToks of, you know, white men saying signs that you're married to a Black woman, and they, you know, and it's all facts, you know.
Well, so, like I said first, he knows don't use my brushes, or if he uses any of my brushes, specifically my detangling brush is what he's used.
Okay, that makes sense,
because he has dark hair, but he uses waxy products, and so it like. In my hair dries white and it flakes.
Yes.
In his hair, he can just wash it out. Yeah. It'll just turn like looser, and then he'll wash it, and then it'll be fine.
Yeah. But we're not shampooing every day. That's a whole process.
Not.
Yeah.
And then if I don't see it in there, but then I drag it through my hair and then it flakes up, it looks like nasty in my hair. And it's not just like a simple brush it out of your hair. It's like you gotta go in and fish it out. It drives me nuts.
Those are facts, girl. You said you gotta fish it out, because the curls, you have to, you know, the curls are intertwining with each other. It's not like straight hair where you just take a fine tooth comb, run it down the hair strands and remove it, but it's intertwining with my curls.
Exactly. And God forbid I have like, I don't know, edge or something, you know, edge control on, where I'm like, it's never gonna come out.
OMG, that's true.
So he learned that very quickly, because I'd be screaming across the house like, you use my brush. But that was definitely the big one. And then he also understood that I'm not just buying random things. Like, these things do different things in different times. And so I use it sometimes. Because sometimes I'd be like, hey, I need you to get this, or I need to get this. And he's like, well, don't you have this? Or why do we need to buy another one of these?
Yes.
Or he'll use, when he runs out of conditioner, he'll use my conditioner. Like, don't touch curly hair conditioner.
Yeah.
Because I already use that all of the time.
And then we run through products so quickly. So it's like I can be getting in the shower. I'm thinking like, oh, I'm about to shampoo and condition my hair. And you pick up that bottle and it's like, really? And I really think that's a whole husband and wife thing, universal. I don't even know if that's a Black and white thing at all, because some of my Black clients who are married to Black men, they have this same issue about leave my hair products alone. They are not for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that understanding that him not using my pillowcase as well.
I have
a silk pillowcase, and I use it on all the whole thing, but sometimes I'm very adamant about not using my silk thing because, again, the waxy products from his, he sleeps hot. So if he happens to sweat or something, then that product is just straight into the pillow.
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, that definitely bothers me and definitely messes with my hair texture, especially, again, like I said, because he uses wax-based products.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
So he learned that very quickly about, I'm not just being picky about my pillowcase. I'm like, this has a purpose. And this is the pillow that it doesn't match the bed for a reason because this is the one I sleep on.
I was about to say, everything with black curly hair has a purpose. I mean, it just do, which is why it's a journey, for us. And you do create emotional attachment to the journey, to your hair, which is why, whenever, you are experiencing any type of conflict or challenge with it, it is very daunting.
Yes. It's a lot to change. Yeah,
it is. So whenever you embarked on your natural hair journey for the first time, did you have any ideas or, like we can get fixated on how, I see her hair on Pinterest and I want it that way. And when I go natural, my hair is going to be this way. Did you have like an initial idealism of, my hair is going to be like that? And then later the reality came and it was completely different.
Absolutely.
Okay, come on, tell us about it.
Biggest heartbreak. Girl, I wanted that Tracy Ellis Ross hair.
She is so many people's inspiration.
Again, like I was told, you got 4C hair. Google 4C
Don't
hair.
do that.
She's the
Get
first
rid of the
person.
curl pattern chart. We're going to talk about that on one of my segments too. Go ahead, girl.
I was like, okay, 4C. And then she's just the ideal. I was like, oh my gosh, she's great. I love her hair. She's gorgeous, blah, blah, blah. Like that was mine.
That was your hair inspiration.
I wanted big hair. Even when I had my bob, I was notorious for like teasing this part, the crown.
Isn't that funny how when we had relaxed hair, we were trying to create volume?
Yeah.
That's how you knew then we wanted our natural hair. We wanted that volume.
Then, when I would get relaxed, it's too flat.
It's too flat. I can't wait till the relax is like 2 weeks old because I want the volume. Okay. Go ahead, girl.
I Googled, I wanted her big hair. I wanted the whole full volume, the whole thing. Specifically, I wanted the fullness around the face and then something to like drop into my face. Like if I had a big
you wanted the length and the volume.
Exactly.
Yes.
So again, I wanted the whole thing. And even when I pulled it up back out of my face, I still had the volume. Because that was the biggest thing is like, even when I pull I go my fro, that's great, but then it shrinks up. Or I pull my hair back, that's great, but then it shrinks up in the crown. So same things, having different styles. And so it was like, it was not achieving. I knew nothing about, I knew my hair is going to shrink up, but to see it completely change the way that I just spent hours stretching and buying all the products for elongating and not understanding that my hair just is not going to do this every single time. And then when I met you, then we were able to kind of achieve those things by using flexi rods or doing different
blow drying and stretching
to manipulate it. But again, it's still my hair. You just got to do it a different way or go about it a different process. And so I think not understanding that at first was really hard because it was like kind of reverts back into, okay, my hair's wrong, it's broken, it's bad. I don't have the good 4C hair. I have the bad 4C hair, I have the hair that's really hard to deal with because I'm thinking of notorious things with 4C hair. It's hard to detangle, whatever the case may be. I think those are the things that I was so used to hearing. And then trying to get used to this new texture that I've now put myself into was really hard.
Yeah. What I love though is you didn't give up because it's so easy to give up. I'm just going to slap a relax on this and I'm going to make my life easy and keep it moving. But you just was like, nope. For some reason, you had a specific, assignment and you accomplished it,
There's certain things I really liked about the wildness of my puff. When I would pull it back, it was great. I didn't have to do the whole curling it and then teasing it out and any of that. It was, I got exactly what I wanted by just pulling it back, kind of messing it up a little bit, pulling, stretching, whatever.
Manipulating to get the volume that you want.
Right. Yeah. I didn't have to do too much to it, which was nice. Figuring out the good parts of it instead of seeing that part as a bad thing. Yes, my hair is really thick and it shrinks up, but my hair is moisture. It's, I can detangle it fairly easily. I can do all these different things. I can make it look like a formal thing, pull a little flat twist with a bobby pin in the front if I want some sort of detail in the front.
Yeah.
That was another thing was feeling like my hair is just a bunch of curls and just matted and then that it can't really do anything pretty was like realizing that I can do these things.
Yes.
I just need to take the time to do it. And I think that was the biggest realization is like my hair didn't change. I didn't change my color. It's still the same thing. I add a little water to it, detangle it, treat it correctly, and do what I can.
Finding what works for your hair.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I feel like if you are stuck in your natural hair journey of appreciating your natural curls, more than likely it's because you have not figured out what to do with it.
Yes.
More than anything.
I'm so set. For me, you parting my hair a different way rocked my world. Because for me, again, I'm so set on how my image is.
Yes.
I was like, okay, when I got my hair parted, when I did my bob, this is the way my hair grew. So that's just the way my hair is.
Yes.
Instead of like, that is what I did to my hair at the time.
And that's what you were comfortable with.
Right.
Too.
And so parting my hair a different way, realizing that like naturally my hair wants to fall this way because my curls
and
are
I ain't
going
gotta
this
fight
way.
it.
Exactly. And so understanding that like, and I could go back and forth, like parting is not permanent.
It's not.
It's not a cut, you know? And I think
that's
understanding that too was a whole process.
Yeah, it is. Especially just understanding the journey, just going from relaxers to natural hair and not knowing how versatile natural curls or natural hair is, because relaxed hair, it can be versatile, but it's not, it's a different type of versatility, you know? And so I know like when I was relaxing my hair, I had the left side part in a wrap, left side part in a wrap, left side part in anything that I did. Even if I did twist outs even with the relaxer. I wanted that hair then, you know, but I'm like, oh, it's just not meant for me. Like because I got a relaxer at a young age. So I didn't remember my curls, you know? So I didn't even understand even back then mentally, like, girl, stop putting a relaxer on your hair and you will have curly hair, you know?
You're the problem.
Right. I'm the problem here. I'm not understanding how this all works, you know? But I always resorted to the left side part. But I noticed when I did go natural, I'm like, what does it want to do today? Oh, you don't want to be split down the middle. We're going right. Let's go right. You know, we're going to go right, you know, and it works, you know, just not trying to be so combative with your hair, you know, because at the end of the day, your hair is going to rule. It's going to win. It's going to rule every time, especially if you didn't if you didn't want to wash it, condition, blow dry, and intentionally get it to look.
For me, regularly it turns into I'm gonna fight it and do this, and it's like, girl, my arms hurt. You should have just left it alone.
Just leave it alone, especially if it's days old wash. That hair does not behave all the time. So, but again, it's still, you can still make it work. You can still look good. Yeah, it's just really being realistic and like realistic. That's it right there. Being realistic with what you have on your head. You have to be.
And where you are, because girl, if you're a busy week and you haven't washed, you can't do the flat, you know, you can't do all of these things. Your hair's gonna just need a little bit of a break.
It is. So what made you decide to resort to a natural hairstyle for your wedding instead of getting, you know, weave with looser texture or, you know, stretching your own hair to create an updo? Like, what made you decide, like, no, I'm going for something that's very similar to my texture and I'm going to create an updo with that?
I think it was kind of playing on the fact that, like I had mentioned, I really was in this space of like, I am tired of trying to like box myself in and like feel like I'm out of place and this is just how I am. And so I was very adamant when I was planning my wedding, because we had the time to do it. I was like, I am going to put in the time to find a stylist that really knows how to work with my type of hair. I don't want to find somebody, I don't want to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars that I'm going to just put something on my hair that isn't my hair and it's going to be for one day. I was very adamant about, I want this to look like me now and for the rest of my life. And so again, I was very adamant when I designed my wedding dress, I want my tattoos showing. I want it to be a color that looks good on me. I wore a dark green. My tattoos were out. I had sleeves at one point and then took off the sleeves for later on, because again, that is just who I am. And so I was very adamant about my hair being the same way. And so my kind of signature, I always do like double puffs and, you know, some sort of twist or some sort of something. And so I was I knew I wanted something in the front, little details. I didn't know if I wanted twists or braids, whatever. And I knew I wanted big volume, because that's just how I've been. And for me, a lot, like you said, a lot of the bridal hairs are like the swoops and then, like the, waves and all of those
always
things. Very
a looser
sleek,
texture.
Gorgeous. But again, it's nothing big. I'm going to lose what I'm so used to seeing. And I didn't want, with the added makeup and all of that stuff, then to lose my hair. On top of it, I was very adamant about not doing something low because it's an off shoulder. And so I didn't want, certain positions. Again, I was worried about not having hair in some pictures, looking like I didn't have hair in some angles. And that's just how my image is on myself. And so I was like, I need to find someone who will do something big and bold. And, and I was Googling and looking on Pinterest, different hairstyles. And I knew I wanted big
Did you
volume.
find it difficult to find like natural hairstyles for weddings?
Well, I realized too that some of it was wigs and not actual hair texture.
Right.
So it's like, I love this is a great image, but it's not going to translate the same, or I'm not going to be able to find the same hairpiece or whatever the case may be. I was like, I really just need to find something that's, here's an idea of this. What can we do on my hair to get the same idea, like an image and not necessarily an exact replica of something.
We did have a consultation about that exactly. And I referred you to True and Pure Texture. Yeah, because they have so many great varieties of different texture and you needed something very similar to your texture. And I was just excited because most of my inquiries, the hair is usually, it's not a natural updo hairstyle for the wedding day.
Well, I was like really excited that you were excited because again, like stepping into somebody else, it was like that anxiety. Like again, at this point when I met you, I still did not have a regular stylist.
Yes.
Like I sought you out ahead of time because I was like, I want someone who eventually will do my hair and then will also do my hair for my wedding because I want someone that I'm comfortable with.
Yep.
And so like meeting you and then talking about like the style that I wanted and the type of hair that I had and the whole nine, we really went in detail. I think I was really excited because you were excited.
Yes.
So you were like, it wasn't something that you were kind of like, maybe we can figure this out together.
Oh,
it was like,
we're doing this.
Yeah. And so I think that's what helped me kind of really relax into it. And then you were able to, oh no, I can do this. And I was like, I was even still trying to find ways to make my hair more manageable. Like, oh, I can do this instead. And you're like, no,
we can do this. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think really understand, and again, it's about like getting to that point myself, and then also understanding that like when you find somebody who knows what they're doing, then you can really like relax into it.
Absolutely. Because it's like an exchange of energy. If I don't feel confident that you can execute the hairstyle, then you have to feel, even sometimes you can run into a situation where clients don't feel comfortable that you can do it, even though you have the confidence in doing it. It's like an exchange of energy. Like, you have to trust that I can do it. I also have to trust myself that I can do it too. And then it just comes out, the way that it needs to come out. So, and also being realistic with finding someone who is skilled and specialized in whatever hairstyle that you are seeking, not only just for behind the chair for your wedding day. Absolutely. Like, don't go looking for someone who only works with relaxed hair or, you don't see there's like a specialty of what you're looking for there. That's like a complete setup because I do see that, in this industry, not just bridal, but behind the chair. Clients will go to these specific hairstylists that don't specialize in whatever it is that they're seeking, and then the results don't turn out the way that they wanted. And I'm like, well, that was never their strong.
Because they're not someone who knows something. They're going to be able to see something. Oh, it's going in this direction. Okay, we need to do this, and this.
Yeah.
Like, your hair's not going to agree with this, so we're going to try this.
Yeah, they have to have that. And sometimes it's like an instinct. It is like sometimes education don't help you. What I'm saying? Sometimes it's just like an instinct. Like, I already know if I do this, this is not going to do what it's supposed to do. Tell us about your moments of self-acceptance where you were just like, you know what? It's like that art of not giving an F. I don't know if you ever read that book, but
absolutely.
That art of not giving an F. Like, you know what? It is what it is. This is who I am. This is how God created me. I love me. And this is what I'm moving forward with. If you don't like it, you can just move around, so tell us about that.
I think for me, most of that is ingrained in me being more confident and comfortable in my blackness, like 100%. Like, I think for me, that's what's been most fun is because, I mean, I can't change it. And I think the more I've tried to like fit around and be, you know, minimize, the more unhappier I've been and the more uncomfortable I've been. Why do you think that is? Because I'm Black. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And I think the more that I've tried to like spin that or try to like minimize or like not to feel othered, because again, I've been the only Black person in most of my spaces growing up. I didn't have another Black person in my class until 7th grade. You know, that's a long time.
That's a very long time.
So just navigating everything that kind of goes through that. I mean, that's puberty age, right? Like,
yeah.
And so it's a lot to navigate growing up, and, you know, all of those weird microaggressions from like, you know, as a kid and like bullying and the whole. And so I think for me, my empowerment has been being more confident in my Blackness and understanding that like I have different texture. I have, you know, fuller lips. I have things that people don't have. I have issues that, you know, I don't have to wear certain things that certain people, you know, I put sunscreen on, having to explain to people, yes, I still wear sunscreen.
Yes.
You know, I still burn and like I still get tan lines.
OMG.
You know, just those simple things. But I think being more confident and more aware in my Blackness has definitely helped me be more confident, because I have, you know, when like having another Black girl tell you have great hair, you have the, you know,
that helps.
Getting compliments, getting hyped up, or, oh, I just rolled out of bed today. Oh, I didn't even try today. Like that definitely helps, because I can't even tell you, I can't even remember a compliment I got when I was going full out trying to seek that. My best compliments that have resonated with me are when I just am showing up as my
as
yourself.
Self.
You know?
Do you feel like, because I also feel like society is finally mentally shifting to where our hair, our natural curly hair, is everything. You know,
it's a flex.
Yeah, it's a flex.
Absolutely.
So do you feel like that also kind of help you get into that moment of, you know what, this is who I am and I love it, you know?
Well, and especially because like, I think the biggest thing, one of the first earlier turnarounds for me was like that fullness, where I'm just like trying to like minimize, trying to get stick straight. I'm like, people are killing themselves, breaking combs, trying to get the volume that I just naturally wake up with, you know? And so I think I started to have to realize and find other things that people are seeking out for me to stop trying to do it. That's why I didn't overpluck my eyebrows, like, you know, things like that. I really had to find things that people were seeking out that I had, so that, okay, there is some value in this. Like, I should be confident because
a lot of value,
you know? And it took a while to get to that point, but I definitely think my biggest things are revolved around that for sure.
Okay. So what about your dad? Whenever you go home and visit him today, now that you are in this moment of Black woman power and empowerment and movement and everything beyond of acceptance of who you are, when you go home, do you have those moments of, you know, self-reflecting about what is he going to say to me? Or has your dad now moved into the direction mentally, like, this is my daughter, this is who she is, and, you know, this is her hair, this is how she's going to wear it. And, you know, did it come to a moment where he accepted it, or did he just stop talking about it because you were just like, I don't care no more?
I think a little bit of both. I think he realized that he can say as much as he wants, but I'm going to drive back to college and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And he knows that I'm not going to go crazy. He knows, you know, I think that's what helped him to kind of like quit trying to vocally put me in a place where I needed, this is what I want you to do, this is what you should be thinking about doing, and instead just letting me organically get there has definitely helped our relationship. Again, like I said, I'm the only girl and baby and the whole thing, so there's all those extra, you know, dad things, right, that he put in. But also at the same time, I think now he's very open about like vocally telling me that he's proud of me, openly talking about things. And I think that has less to do with my image, but I think it does have something to do with my image, because I'm more confident and I'm pushing back. Like if he says something like, Dad, I'm at home, it's like I'm off camera, you know, like what do I need? And I think it's like understanding that I don't need to be photo ready at all times, because I even say that now. It is so hard for me to dress casual.
Yes,
it is so hard for me, because even going out somewhere, like wearing sweatpants is lazy. Wearing athletic clothes when you're not wearing athletic, doing something athletic is, you know, there were so many things that we had to juggle growing up, that me being home now, I'm just like, Dad, I'm not going to like tangle out my hair and pour it all up. Like,
this is my safe space.
Squeezing my scalp. I need a break from putting my hair
my
up.
safe space. I need to be exactly who I want to be right here.
Right.
You know, and I don't need to hear from you. I hear from the outside world. I don't need to hear from you.
And I think too, like I mentioned, like being more confident in my blackness, that meant like getting protective styles, because even still, like some people look down on people getting braids.
They sure do.
Know? And so for me, I was like, I understand the value of these styles now that I'm more confident.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I wouldn't do them because I didn't want to look too black. When I was older, this is what I want to do to like really protect my hair. I've been putting in a lot of work and money and effort into this. If this is going to save me for 6 months when I'm really busy, it's 100 degrees outside and I can't really do the things that I need to do everything, or it's no use doing that because I'm fighting the heat all day.
Yeah.
My hair already doesn't retain moisture. Like, what can I do to save me and my hair for a little bit?
Absolutely.
And I think that is now definitely helped too, is showing him like, me wearing these braids, I still look professional. Me wearing this style, I'm still professional. I still look put together.
You sure do.
It's better for my hair right now, and it's better for my mental health because I ain't got to fight my hair every morning.
Part. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Woo! Love it. So what future goals do you have aligned for your natural hair journey from here on out, based on all the experiences, challenges, and conflicts and, you know, things that you learned over the years? Like, what do you plan on doing from here on out?
Well, I'm still seeking out that Tracy Ellis Ross hair girl. Like, that is still my ultimate. And I think that's because
the volume.
Like, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
And in the link specifically when she has like her fro. And
okay.
So that's just my idea. Like, I really, that is, for me, will be my peak, I think.
Not her texture, just her length
just
and her volume.
The ability to go from styled, you know, down, out, twisted, whatever. As big as her hair is, it can do it all. And so I think that's my biggest goal, is like getting the length that I want, whether it's froed out, whether it's pulled back, whatever. That's my ultimate goal, I think. But also, like, I want to have kids, and so I want to make sure that I'm doing the right things with my hair and modeling things to do with my hair for when I have kids. And again, not only will I have kids, I will have mixed kids. So I also need to take that into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Because having a mixed child, it already comes with its different levels of controversy. Like, am I being black enough? Am I being white enough? And then you have the different hair textures. What I've noticed in a lot of my clients who do have biracial kids, you'll have one kid that has more of a straighter texture, than the next kid has more of a kinkier texture. And then especially if you are a mother that is white instead of a mother that is black, that can be a very challenging experience for a white mom.
Yeah.
But, you know, for you, I do wonder how the approach would be if you kept chemically straightening your hair, because you wouldn't have, you know, the knowledge and the education that you have now in order to take care of curls, right?
And I wouldn't know the limit on their hair.
That's true.
I was afraid to trust it on my own hair. Can you imagine if I'm just like, this is what this is going to help you do.
Right.
And I overdo it. Like, that could change their curl pattern.
Yeah, ruin it for sure. Because, you know, I've done biracial kids from the same parents. They have two completely different textures. And that creates some type of overwhelmment for the mom, even if she is black.
Yeah.
Because
just knowing that you now have not only one skill set, you now have to create two separate skill sets.
And let's be honest, you know, a lot of us today that have transitioned to being completely natural, we still struggle with how to take care of our hair, how to style it, etc. And there are some moms out here that even if the child is fully black or biracial, they still have a hard time because no one groomed them or taught them how to take care of naturally curly hair. And they're trying to learn how to take care of their naturally curly hair, which is different from their daughter's naturally curly hair.
They're reading something and that gives you no insight on, hey, this hair is damaged. Hey, this hair is dry. Hey, this hair is whatever. They're just like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do.
And then it don't work out. Yeah. So yes, I'm glad you brought that point up, because that comes with its own level of, you know, emotions and traumatization, believe it or not, you know. And it's important to bring awareness to, you know, that specific situation. Because let's be honest, like, I don't think in about 30 years from now, I don't believe anyone is going to be fully anything, you know? Like, I feel like, you know, as years progress, you are not going to be able to identify if somebody is absolutely black or absolutely white. You know, I can use J. Cole for an example. He has a full-blooded white mom and dad is black. That. Yes.
Wow. And he's got that thick hair too. Oh
yes, he looks like a full-blown black man.
Oh
like based on aesthetic appearances and what we have in our heads, what a black man or woman supposed to look like,
especially too because
his hair texture is very kinky.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's why I was like, you're not going to be able to identify and put nobody anywhere because no one really knows that he has a parent that is full-blown white and it's his mom and his dad is black. So, you know, it's just so many when it comes to textured hair in, you know, the black, you know, industry or whatever, and ethnicity, heritage, whatever the case may be. It's just, and this is why this is a conversation that will continue to go on forever because it don't just stop at one specific thing. Like I just brought that up about J. Cole and we can just keep going about that. Yeah. So it's always, that's why I feel like it is a controversial topic. Black hair is because there's so many variables to it, you know? So Jerrica, do you have any advice for others out there who are currently experiencing what you have triumphed when it comes to, you know, back then you had this unhealthy emotional attachment to your hair and now you have conquered that situation mentally and you have arrived to this place of self-acceptance with your natural hair and your blackness and this is who I am and if you don't like it, I don't genuinely care. It's not my business. I'm doing me and this is who I am. So if you can offer any type of advice to help the next black woman out here who is struggling and on a mission to just stop the natural hair journey because she don't like her hair and she hate her hair, what advice and gems can you drop for her to help her reach where you are now today?
So first, I think the biggest thing that I wish I would have heard that probably, well, I hope that it echoes in your head is that no matter how many times you cut, color, straighten, whatever, the hair that grows out of your head is still going to be the same hair that grows out of your head. So I can spend more time working against it or I can work to accepting and feeling better in the space. Now I have, you know, all this time. I'm so happy that I got to that point and I'm so happy that I did it at the time that I did because now that it is so visual, I do have so many things to look to now. I have so many specific product lines. And I think my biggest advice is like go into it with an idea, not a checkbox. Like I want this hairstyle, I want this texture, I want this color. This is the idea that I would like to achieve. This is why I want to achieve that. And then have a stylist that will help you get to that, not have a stylist that will do it just to get the money. Because they can upcharge you to get to that point. Because I could have really gone to someone who was like, we're going to make your hair do what you want it to do. But luckily I didn't stumble across anybody who did that. I stumbled into people who were helping me maintain to get to the point that I wanted until I was able to be like, okay, I got to chop it. You know, I think that's the biggest thing that I wish I would have had is like someone to see earlier on that I was fighting something that wasn't going to change. Like I was trying to do things that just are going to drive me crazy and I'm going to go in circles and then end up right where I am.
Yeah, or relaxed.
Right. Correct.
Yes.
And also just kind of piggybacking up, like, there's enough pressure on black women, black people in general, but there's enough that we have to worry about safety, you know, accessibility. Are we going to get paid the same? Are we going to even be heard when we walk in the door? There's going to be so many things working against us. I feel like you already have to climb that mountain. Don't add more to it. Like, don't put more on yourself to try to get to that point. I think the more that you can do, if you aren't going to support yourself, it's like RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else?
That's right.
You have to get to that point. And I think for me, I spent so much time admiring other people's hair, not realizing that some people want what I have.
They sure do. That is a fact. You are sitting around idolizing someone else's curls, and you are someone's inspiration.
Right.
And that actually happened to one of my clients. She never vocalized that she did not like her hair, but I do feel as though the kinkier, coilier clients more experienced this mentally than the other textures. And she had that kinky, coily texture. And I never got the vibe that she didn't like her hair unless she had arrived already in that moment. Like when I met you, you were already there. But she was literally someone's hair goals. A client came to me, sat in my chair, pulled up her picture. She was like, I want her hair. And it was quote unquote 4C hair. But for me, speaking as a professional, it was kinky, curly, coily hair. So you could be someone's inspiration. Absolutely. That's great advice, Jerrica.
Thank you.
So we have to come to a close, unfortunately, because this segment was so amazing. I've learned so much about Jerrica that I didn't know prior. 2 years later.
I know, that's crazy.
Yes, and I learned so much about your journey. And, even today I learned how you arrived to where you are when I met you. I met you in this place, in this moment now. And I just want to say thank you so much for carving time out of your schedule to share and also to uplift the next Black woman who was currently where you are, and to share advice to get her to where you are currently. So I want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you for everything, every gem, every knowledge, every experience that you shared. I am truly grateful, and I'm sure the listeners are as well.
Thank you so much. This has been fun.
Absolutely. So if you want to stay connected to Jerrica, can you please share your information, how you would prefer the listeners to connect with you?
Sure. So I'm sure you'll see me on Kinetra's page.
Absolutely.
Because, your girl had to get a hair model in.
Yes.
So I hopefully will be on there. But if otherwise, my Instagram is Jerrica, Jerrica from America. And hope to hear from some people. That'd be cool.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Hair What I'm Saying podcast on the complexities surrounding Black women and their relationship with their hair. We hope this discussion has shed light on the societal pressures and historical factors contributing to many Black women's struggles. We encourage you to continue learning about and supporting a movement of self-love and acceptance for all hair types and textures. Join us next time as we continue to explore important topics and issues affecting our communities. If you enjoyed this week's episode on the Hair What I'm Saying podcast, don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating or review so that you can be the first to know when a new episode is released. If you happen to come across an episode that you particularly enjoy, please share it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think might appreciate it. To stay updated on my activities, you can follow me on Instagram at _hairwhatimsaying_. And for my business financials advice, you can follow me on Instagram at _thevintagehipster_. Additionally, be sure to subscribe to our website for all the latest news and updates. Until next time, peace and many blessings. And always thank you for tuning in.